I'm here with Daniel. Daniel, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Daniel Olvera. I'm a business advisor at the Small Business Development Center at UTSA.
And what kind of businesses do you work with there?
We work with primarily small business. By the definition of the SBA, could be from 1 to 20 employees, and sales can go to $1 million. I mean, that doesn't sound like a small business, but I do work with people that are coming just with an idea, just to start the business. So from there, all the way over the other side.
Can you give some advice on how to get started as an entrepreneur?
It's an interesting journey, right? The first thing that I would mention is just to make sure that you have a good why you're doing this. Like Simon Sinek says, start with why. What is the main idea that you want to accomplish behind the business? Is it just money, or do you actually want to improve a process or a product and give better service to your client or whatever it is, right? So then, what is your why? Why are you starting this journey that is going to be difficult for sure? So you can continue with that. So you can build that resiliency, because once you have the North Star, it's easier to do that. So I would say that would be the first thing. You have a North Star. And then, talk to an SBDC advisor, because we help from idea validation. Like, okay, here's my idea. Well, is there really a market for it? Okay, let's do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and take a look at where you are. If the competition is too big, or your product does not have differentiation, your value proposition is not strong enough, and then we can start working with those. I normally like to use a couple of formats, the SWOT analysis and then the business model Canva, that can help us to start evaluating the business from a 30,000 foot view. And okay, so that now we have a good idea, and then we can move on with that.
When people are struggling to find their North Star, do you have any tools or frameworks that help them to find that North Star?
Yeah, there's a very good tool called Ikigai. So the Ikigai, you're saying yes, about it.
Because we use that in our podcasting course too. So we have students identify their Ikigai. So tell us about Ikigai.
Oh, okay, that's great. So it's a Venn diagram, right? That interconnects different things. What you're good at, what you love, what if there's a need for a market in there. And then when you start analyzing each of those, you identify what interconnects in all of that. And that helps you to identify, oh, I'm good at this. Oh, I love doing this. Oh, there's a need for the market. So, well, bingo, right? It's obviously it's a little bit of a process that you have to write down stuff and think about it and do all that. But I mean, you're going to have to do that anyway in your business plan. Like, it's going to take a while, and there's a lot of time invested in making sure that you understand what you want and why you want it. So I would say that's a good first step, I would say.
And you mentioned the framework of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats as a great first step. Are there other frameworks or tools that you're using to help entrepreneurs get really clear on what they need to do?
The other one is the business model canvas. That has, like, if I remember correctly, like 13 compartments. It's a one page format. And then you have, okay, who is your market? What is your niche? What is your value proposition? Who are your key resources or key partners? Your main activities, income streams, costs, and things like that. So you start spending a little bit of time on each of those, and like, oh, key partners. What is that? It's like, oh, well, people or companies that can help you with your mission and your company. It's like, if I am starting a cafe, well, maybe it's one, my supplier, Two, maybe it's an actual connoisseur of coffee, that I know that, oh, they can help me to grow my business and come to my coffee shop and teach people how to do all of that and things like that. So people, companies that can help you with that. And then you go on each of those uh, parts of the format, digging a little bit more and finding that information so you can understand better your business. And how I say it is, it's an easy way to put everything that is in your head on paper. Sometimes when we have it all up here, it's kind of difficult to to figure out what the next step is.
Do you find that most entrepreneurs struggle with a certain part of the business plan or a certain part of the things you listed, like cost or partners or identifying challenges that they're going to deal with as they launch their businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have our strengths and weaknesses, or opportunity areas. I like to call them better that way. Some people will come and it's like, hey, I have no clue how to do financial projections. Okay, we'll help you with that. Or some other people will come and, I have 3 ideas. I don't know what to do. And sometimes it's like, oh, I want a car wash and I want to have a towing business. It's like, oh, okay, they're really different. It's not the same thing. I would say we get a lot of everything. It's a huge, variety of businesses that we get, or ideas, people with ideas that want to start. And definitely there's going to be an area where we're not experts. So that's when the support and finding the right resource for that is key.
That is so important, finding expertise that goes beyond our own expertise, because no one can know it all. You have a list of partners that you work with the SBDC, correct?
Yeah, we work with different organizations as well.
What are some of those partners, and what kind of services do they offer that are more popular amongst your entrepreneurs?
There's a couple of ways to see the partnerships that we have. We have partners that can come and teach some trainings and workshops. We have probably 20 plus trainings on a monthly basis. You can find from social media, AI, finance, budgeting, legal issues, etc. And then normally the majority right now are webinars, but we also are starting to get more and more in person. Then we have partners that, like certain financial institutions, that can help us to get a loan. When a bank is like saying, no, I'm not right now working with that type of business. Okay, we have another one. Well, I'm not working with that. Okay, we have another one. Resources that we have along, because we've been around for a while and we already know the connections in San Antonio. So we can pretty much help everybody. Unless, of course, the business idea or the business plan is not viable and is like, oh, you're not going to make money. So yeah, like how, why do you want to still continue in that direction?
How do you deliver that news? I'm curious. You're like, look, okay, what you have here in the plan isn't working. How do you tell someone that their business dream and their baby isn't going to work for their business?
Well, actually, I had that conversation probably 2 weeks ago. Because we're working on the financial projections. This client wanted to move out of the house and go and rent a space. And we're starting working on the projections. Okay, how many of these are you going to sell? How many of these and how many of these? And I'm like, it's not adding up. It was like rent itself is going to eat everything. So we need a different approach to get you there. So then they don't take it bad, because at the end that's what we do. We try to help you to minimize risk and try to get better at giving you probability of success, right? So yeah, it wasn't a bad conversation.
That's good. You must be skilled at having those kinds of conversations too. You mentioned mitigating risk. What are some of the ways that you find yourself recommending the mitigation of risk with your entrepreneurs? Is there maybe a list of kinds of risk mitigation techniques or strategies that you find yourself recommending more often than not?
Well, the main thing is building a business plan. I mean, planning is going to be the first thing that will help you to mitigate risk, because there you're going to have everything in paper. It's not like you're actually spending dollars to start the business and then realizing that, oh, it didn't work. So now it's okay, let's spend some time doing the market research. Okay, what is my competition? I want to go in and set my business in the corner of that street, but suddenly, and I want to sell donuts, but suddenly Krispy Kreme is on the other side. Like, okay, let's think a little bit more about that. And the business plan will guide you in terms of looking at everything from market research, competition, your value proposition, um, demographics, getting to know more your target market, financials, and all of that. So, because we will work projections as part of the business plan, at the end, you'll know if, oh, it looks like kind of tricky because maybe this north area of San Antonio is saturated with, I don't know, massage places, and you want to start a new one. Maybe it's not the right place. McDonald's will always say location, 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 and that's one of the considerations that we have to look into.
I wonder if around value proposition and niching down, do you find yourself giving advice to multiple entrepreneurs about value propositions and making those stronger and making sure that you have a smaller target audience to communicate with? Can you speak to those two things?
The key element is what makes you different, right? Because most likely there's going to be 1,000 coffee shops. What is exactly that makes the differentiation in your value proposition? Is it really good quality? Is it really good service? Well, the other coffee shop around the corner kind of does the same thing. So what else? It's like, oh no, it's just that my coffee is going to come from Colombia, and they don't do that. Oh, okay. So then we're getting into something, or I want to mix booze and beer and coffee. Oh, okay. Well, probably that's not around. So that's a unique idea. And then you start looking into those intricacies of what will make you better at what you do than everybody else, right? And then sometimes the niching into your target market is very important, because I was working with another client saying that, well, all Christians are my target market. Well, yeah, okay, I understand that, but how you are going to communicate with your 18-year-old Christian is going to be very different from a 60-year-old. You're not going to find them in the same place. So you have to have then now, I don't know, maybe 5-6 different strategies for each of those groups. Maybe you're going to group 18 to 25, and then 25 to 30, and then whatever. But you're going to have to do something different for each of them. So, okay, so who do you want to talk to first? Because it would be nice to have unlimited resources, right? Like, oh, I have the money to do all the marketing for each of them. Okay, great. Then then we can reach out to everybody. But normally that's not the case, right?
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about the market research that is done? And I assume you're helping people do that kind of survey and interview research that helps them to make sure that they're segmenting those target markets more correctly.
Yeah. So we have tools that the university has that are allowing us to know more about the market and the industry. For example, we can go and run reports about, I was mentioning car washing. Okay, how is the car wash industry in the United States? And we can pull a report that is 16 pages long, and it will give us a lot of information for a start. Then we have other tools that we can go and looking for as specific as a zip code, and saying, okay, zip code, and I just input car wash and see if there are any in that area. and things like that, in terms of competition. And of course, we can run those, we can provide that information, but at the end, the client, the entrepreneur has to do their own, right? Okay, Google is still a great source of information. And then starting to do the research on their own. On a side note, for example, when they are trying to come up with the name, it's like, okay, I can give you the link for the Secretary of State, and you can search if the name already is taken. But you also have to do your Google research, because there could be a guy in Louisiana that has exactly the same name. Now, do you want to do that? Even if he is not in the Secretary of State database? Probably not, and things like that. That's a different thing, but I'm talking about tools that can help with that market research that we have into our advantage. We have an area that is called SBDC Net, that they pull even stronger reports, more specific, but those take a long time to be created. But we can get into something more robust like that.
Excellent. So a lot of our students have personal brands, and they're not only trying to appeal to maybe possible clients, but maybe also smaller clients too, like not just large clients, but small clients, not just organizations that might hire them, but smaller businesses as well that might hire them. Do you have any advice for the army of one, for the person who is out there struggling to generate leads, to refine their purpose, to make sure that they're talking to the right people? Do you see a common struggle amongst the entrepreneurs that are all by themselves?
Well, it's time, right? You have to be very conscious of how are you going to be using your time, and if it is going to give you the ROI, the return on investment for that time. Something that I have witnessed that is a very good process to do, it's strategic planning. Just do a session of strategic planning, because that will give you, you're planning for a 3-year period, but you're making a plan, actionable plan for the first year. And in that, you can start looking at identifying your vision, your mission, your values, how everything is aligned. And then you're also going to put in there like your goals. Okay, how much money do I want to make? Now, how many clients do I need to make that goal? Oh, how many hours is going to take to do that goal? And so on. You start going deeper and deeper into little goals that will give you the idea and the guide to get to the final goal at the end of the year. Now, you're going to have to choose, because you can get to that, I don't know, I'm just going to make something like $50,000 worth of sales this year. And I am doing websites, and I'm doing social media marketing. That's my thing. Well, how many websites do you need to develop I'm just going to make $500 to get to that goal. Well, it's going to be a mix. It's not only websites. I'm going to do the digital marketing. Oh, how much are you going to charge for that? Oh, this much. Well, how many clients do you need? And then start looking at going to the Pareto law. Normally 80% of your results are coming from 20% of your actions. So which of those actions you better take on, because they are going to give you your best buck for your best bang for your buck, right? And then continue playing with that. Well, websites is better source than digital. Okay, start with websites, and then move to the next one, and then move to the next one. Because, like I said, time, you can't do everything. You want to do everything. Now, the other thing is, I would say something that really works when you are starting, it's building partnerships. It's like, okay, I'm great at social media and marketing, but this other guy is amazing at finances, and I have no clue. Hey, what if I provide you services for your finance package that you have for free, and you help me with my finances. And then you got the expertise that you're looking, that you're not strong, is not your strong arm. You're not paying for it, but then you're getting the best in that scenario. So those will be a couple of things that you can take a look at when thinking about that.
I love that idea of initiating partnerships for the things that you're weak on, especially because, as you said, we don't have enough time to do everything, right? Uh,
Yeah.
when it comes to lead generation specifically, what are some of the things that entrepreneurs struggle with lead generation?
Well, it's the first thing is we go back to the plan, right? Like, okay, what is your market? That's normally when everything starts, because they don't know exactly. They think too big. Okay, we need to figure it out how to reach out to those people. Um, and then sometimes there's a lot of spaghetti uh, strategy. You know, that you just grab the spaghetti and try everything and see what sticks. Again, it's part of the planning. Like it's talking to experts that know more about it. Like come to the SBDC, we can help you a little bit with that, um, and finding then what is going to be the best strategy for you. I mean, there's a lot of, I would say, a lot that is missing is you need to really understand the business that you're getting into. You have to read, you have to listen to podcasts, you have to watch the news, you have to get everything specific to the thing that you want to do, because that way you start learning. You start learning, oh, what is this guy? And there's tons of free resources as well, right? There's going to be always one um, great person, expert, that is going to be talking about that specific service or product that you are trying to sell. And then go in there, because they're going to give you, okay, first you do this, and about lead generation, you're going to get this and this and this. And then it's not going to be as much as a trial and error. At least you're making a more educated guess, because you're doing your research and saying, oh, everybody talks about 5. But if I listen to these other 3 experts, I'm coming down to these 3. So let's try these 3 strategies for lead generation and see how it works. And maybe one is Facebook, because your demographics are 40 to 50 plus, or maybe it's not, right? And then, maybe it's LinkedIn, because it's more professional setting that I'm trying to sell things, because my target market is managers and supervisors. Well, definitely it's not going to be TikTok, and stuff like that. So those are things that you can do without spending money, as part of your budget. And well, one thing that I didn't mention is SBDC. We provide all these services at no cost to you. So there's that point as well, that, okay, I don't have money. Well, there's experts that you can go and talk to, for sure.
That is so fun to hear, because I know a lot of our entrepreneurs are struggling to launch, and often capital is a problem. When I started my business years ago, I started it because I was being approached to do organizational development for companies in the area mainly. And most of the times my leads would come very unintentionally just from presenting at another function, presenting at a professional organization, or presenting at another company that had visiting employees, right? So, and even like the chambers of commerce, for example, those were a great source of leads. I wonder, in the business to business arena versus the business to customers arena, do you see a difference in the lead generation strategies? Because I've been advised to do LinkedIn, like you were talking about, because that's where most of my target market would be. But I know that there are probably differences for entrepreneurs who are targeting businesses versus entrepreneurs who are targeting customers. Can you speak a little bit about the different lead generation strategies of both those groups?
Well, you mentioned one very good one, Chamber of Commerce. You're going to find business owners there, right? If you want to sell to a business, well, there's the best place is going to be there. And networking is one of the, I would say, the strongest strategies. Um, we're talking about resources, right? You go to an event, to a place like the Chamber of Commerce, an event that you spend 1 hour, and you have probably 60 people around. Where else you can spend 1 hour and talk to maybe 60 people? Um, so for thinking about time, I mean that's great. But you are also looking to find the decision makers for businesses, and that is going to be your environment. For example, there are different SBDC centers at UTSA. We have specialty centers like the Center for Government Contracting, Technology, International Trade, and so on. And for example, we were having a conversation this morning with the Center of Government Contracting, which it is selling to the government, right? Like, oh, I have a product and service I want to sell to the government. And they offer a breakfast every second Wednesday of the month. And then they bring all the people that need to be involved in those processes, right? Either experts talking about the topic or actual people in the procurement positions for SOS, CPS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So then we also have from time to time training, a webinar in our SBDC that talks about, for example, networking, how to make the most out of your networking. And the most crucial part is, how do you find the right event that you want to attend? Talking about lead generation is, again, going back to planning. I mean, I think that's the key. We always have to spend a little bit more time in the planning session, so we can get better results later on. Is not as easy as just saying, oh, there's a lot of noise about I have to do a TikTok video so I can get viral and that's gonna make me rich. Yeah, there's steps behind that. Yeah, there's people that are gonna go viral, but for the wrong reasons, right? Like, oh, it was a funny video and that's it. Well, do you want that, or do you want to actually make money out of your business? So you have to plan a little bit more. But networking events are amazing. Finding the right networking events in the right venues, it's even better. But it comes with a step prior to that, is the planning. That's what I would say.
So build on that foundation with the planning. Make sure you have a real strong foundation before you go out there and spend that time, because I don't have time to go to every chamber of commerce. There's a lot of chambers of commerce in our city. I don't have time to attend them all. And I'm only invited to speak on usually storytelling or generative AI, right? So these are the two things that they tend to ask me to come talk to these events for, and there are only certain kinds of people interested in those sorts of things. So I wonder, how do we expand our reach for entrepreneurs who are, again, trying to talk to other businesses or talk to other customers? What are other ways of expanding our reach beyond content marketing with social media or showing up in person at these kinds of business networking events?
Well, it's we need to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, who is my target market? Okay, business. What type of businesses? Well, it's businesses that have 1 to 5 employees, because I'm selling, insurance. Okay. Is there a specific industry? Actually, it is. It's service-based businesses. It's not manufacturing. It's not bakeries. It's like, oh, okay. What type of service? And then going down, asking the question to narrow it down, right? And once you find like it is very specific, I want to sell to businesses from 1 to 5 employees that offer, let's say, coffee. I don't know. Well, it's not a service now; it's a product, but whatever, right? They offer this. Okay, now how do I find them? Well, there's actually a group on Eventbrite, because I go and look into there. The the coffee makers, whatever, they meet every Wednesday of the month at that place. Bingo, that's where I want to go. And that's one way, right? But you have to go and be very thorough in making sure that you find the right specific criteria that you want to reach and talk to those guys. Because otherwise, we're still talking about, no, I want to reach every Christian. Well, that's not possible. So that would be another way of doing that. When you're talking about business to business, and like I said, we can run some reports and identify. Do you want it in all the city? Do you want it in specific zip codes? And I can just type coffee shop, whatever, and it will bring me a list of, I don't know, 50. And then you can, okay, now you have a list that you can talk to, because it also can give me the number of employees for those records. And then, okay, now you have your list, and now you just need to call them and things like that.
Excellent. I know that our public relations students and our entrepreneurs that are struggling to get from one level to another experience challenges. I'm wondering, is there advice that you often see being helpful for people who are struggling to go from 50K to $1 million or 50K to 75K? Is there a barrier that you see more often than not that is keeping them from getting from where they are to where they want to be?
Let me switch hats a little bit. I do life coaching as well as my business. I have had a restaurant before. I have had a cardboard puzzle shop and translation services, and now I do coaching. And a lot is the limiting beliefs that we have. Sometimes it's a glass ceiling. You're like, why I can't pass this number? It's majority of the time, I would say, is internal. Is we have had experiences in the past that have taught us that maybe risk is not good after that. Maybe that's my comfort zone. Maybe my ego and it's protected me. Just say, no. You don't need to go farther than this because you're making good. That's enough. I would say there's a lot of how we think that is not letting us go to that next level that you're talking about. Of course, this will present itself in a way that I can't find the resources, I can't find the people, and I can't find the right client. Why is that? Well, it's because there's something here in my mind telling me that I don't need to find them yet. That's to me one of the other things that I like to sometimes to bring, because at the end we're people, right? Like, we're human beings, and there are a lot of things, a lot of baggage that we're bringing along the way that sometimes we need to get rid of to advance, to move forward, to do the next thing. But if we don't work in ourselves, it's going to be very difficult. It's like the definition of insanity, right? Like, keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. But I've tried this. Now I'm going to try this. And I'm going to try, well, yeah, there's something more that you have to work on before that. And it's funny because, yeah, I have had some sessions with clients at the SBDC that suddenly they turn into a coaching session, a life coaching session instead of a business, because they're so focused into one thing that they're missing the point. And it's like, okay, let me try to approach it from a different perspective to see if you, and then the aha moment. Okay, got it. Okay, now let's move on. So I mean, it's just my 2 cents in that scenario.
I love that you mentioned your business of life coaching, because I imagine that wearing the life coaching hat suddenly turns into a business coaching hat with your clients at the SBDC. I wonder, what other challenges are you seeing that your life coaching experience and your business experience can help with? beyond, of course, that idea of mindset and limiting beliefs? What are some other things that you find yourself putting on your business coaching hat to achieve that you can pull from your life coaching toolbox?
Wow, that's a good question. It's I always think is like this, interrelated, right? Like we cannot remove one side of ourselves because we're whole, right? Like we're in a holistic approach. We have the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, and physical, and everything is in there all the time. Okay, on you were saying on my life coaching, and I I I have a client that she runs a team of financial advisors. So probably she is making around $50,000 a month, and sometimes we touch on a topic like very very funny because it's like I'm just gonna make this up for not putting the very specific example, but it's just that I can't buy coffee because it's coming from Colombia and it's super expensive. Like, okay, that's pennies to what you're making. Are we talking about the same thing? And like sometimes is holding to those patterns from when she was a kid because she came from nothing, like literally getting aid from the church to that point, and now she's making $50,000 a month, and but it's still there, that scarcity mentality that is not letting her to move forward in that specific area. It's like, oh my God, it's like I need to work more towards that, and that's the business side. Is that's a specific example that we were talking about, that glass ceiling, and she was like, I can pass the 50,000. Well, some people would love to be at the 50,000, but there's a thing for her that is still there, and it's all that experiences that she has had. She has come a long way. And she has worked a lot before getting to me on herself to get there. And it's just a matter to continue doing that will get her to the next level. Um, but it's like this. It is like that other client that I told you that came with 3 ideas. Oh, I want to do this and this and this. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Why do you want to do this? And it is, well, because I want to make money. Is that the only thing? And then keep asking the questions, and suddenly it's like, I want to provide safety for my family and a business for generations, that they don't have to worry about money like I am. And, oh, okay, that's a different reason. you know, that's different meaning that suddenly is not very clear in our mind. Because right now I'm just saying, no, I need to make more money, more money. But no, there's more behind it. So those are kind of the things that sometimes I get in at my role as a business advisor, and sometimes as a role as a life coach. No,
That makes me want to ask you why you do what you do, because you have, the experience to deal with both the business side and the personal life coaching side. Why are you wearing 2 hats right now? What is your motivation and your purpose in helping people?
I have three main purposes that I've defined like a couple of years ago. One is to help people to be a better version of themselves, to have a rich, beautiful, loving family, and to be in a quest of self-discovery. I love the finding new things, new tools, new techniques to grow, and these two, well, they come together, right? Like, oh, as a life coach, I can do that. I can learn from other techniques and tools, apply them myself, and then teach them. And I being in the role of being an entrepreneur, right? Like, I had to sell my restaurant and my puzzle to my partners because of life changes. Um, but also, I would have liked to continue with a restaurant. It's just fun. a lot of work, but it's fun. Um, so I would like to help people to realize, that it can be done. It can be done. You can pretty much accomplish what you want. It's just a matter of focus, put your mind in the right place, remove all those things that we're carrying that doesn't serve us, and getting the right help. Uh, so if I can be part of that in helping you achieve either your success professionally or personally, I'm good then. Yeah, I love that.
When you're working on that plan, that foundation, we've talked a little bit about lead generation. We've talked a little bit about managing cost and limiting beliefs. Are there other things that entrepreneurs are often hit with as the most challenging thing in making their plan? For example, I've worked with an entrepreneur that has a kind of barrier of they can't get the right people hired, right? That's a barrier. And they are struggling so much with hiring the right people. They've had some bad hiring experiences, and in their plan, they have hire better people. But executing that is very different than having it in the plan. Do you see any other barriers like that? And maybe you have advice for friends who have trouble hiring.
Yeah, actually, we have an HR specialist as part of our team, and uh, she can help you to write the job descriptions, identify what the labor in the market is, how much we have to pay, where to post those positions, like the whole thing. I mean, we have resources to do that, and making sure that you're offering a good salary so you can actually have people interested in that. And then the vetting process, the interview process, and trying to help you to, well, eliminate whatever it is that is not working right now for you. Now, I remember someone, I used to host some events as well for entrepreneurs that they will come and tell stories about professional failure. And there was one that they hired. And here's the other thing: like, they hired a guy for sales that the founder of the company was like, I don't know if I trust this guy, but he's very good. He talks well and this and that. And he learned the lesson the hard way. This guy was amazing in terms of he know how to sell, like, like everything. That, to the point that they said, okay, we're gonna create this event, we're gonna bring Puff Daddy, we're gonna do this, that. So he did. The only thing is, like, he created some contracts paying hundreds of thousands of dollars that the company didn't have. Now they got involved in a lawsuit. They're like, oh my, it was a mess. And the founder was saying, I normally do my due diligence when I'm hiring someone, and then I go asking for my friends for referrals, and I didn't do it this time. And I was like, no, I'm never gonna hire someone that is not coming recommended from one of my loyal sources from now on. It was super fun that when he was telling the story, right? Like, it was like incredible. And but at the end, that was the point. Like, okay, what did you learn from this lesson? You ask, like, what it is. I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing something like, what is crucial for entrepreneurs to have, it is resilience, because you're gonna be knocked down. You're gonna fail. And again and again and again. And if you don't have that resilience, why be an entrepreneur? That's the path. It is not going to be a path that success is never happening like that. It's like, oh, a little bit of success and then boom, going down. And then, oh, try to go back and boom, go down. It is like that. It's a roller coaster. You have to be resilient to be able to go in that journey. if you don't like to be down, like as often or as probably 3 times as often as having wins, well, that probably entrepreneurship is not going to be one of the good things for you.
So resiliency is key. I like
Yeah.
that. It's such an important skill to have. Are there any other stories of failure that come to mind that would be instructive to our entrepreneurs who are listening? I know failure, it can be depressing at times, but it can be one of the best teachers out there.
There was one talking about a little bit of emotional intelligence, which is key in anything. This guy had his biggest client was a pain. It was not easy to work with, things like that. There was one time that he was saying, "Hey, why you haven't done this and that?" So the owner, he was a solopreneur at that point, was like, "Oh, I hate this guy," and start typing an email, and not a good email, of course, and he ended up saying send. He didn't send. And well, he lost the client, obviously. But he came to this event and say, "Hey, write the email and send it to yourself, or write the whole email and then delete everything. And then don't send anything and write another one in the morning. And it's going to be completely different because you were in the heat of the moment instead of taking time to analyze the situation, to calm down and do all of that before losing a client." We are driven by emotions. And if we're not self-aware and we don't know self-regulation, it's going to be very difficult because you're going to be dealing with clients that, "Oh, I don't like this coffee. Oh, that's not what I ordered. You're giving me less for what I'm paying," and, and stuff like that. And you have to have those key elements of an emotionally intelligent person to navigate those difficult situations that will present themselves, so you can be successful at that time instead of reacting and then not doing the right thing at that moment in time. So those, resiliency, you have to be emotionally intelligent, learn more about those things, planning, and then all the how do you call it? Not the soft, but the hard parts of a business, right? Like the processes and things like that. Like I said, if you're not good at one thing, you need to find someone that is an expert on that, because we're good at something for a reason. Okay, I always like to play my strengths, not my weaknesses. So find someone that can do those that you can't, and then that will help a lot.
That's great. You talk about organizational communication and these soft skills that you're talking about. One of our researchers, one of our theorists, talks about how communication creates the organization. Our communication creates the business. Our communication creates the situation for success or failure. You talk about the hard things and the soft things, and a lot of times those things are combined, aren't they? You can't really execute this strategy or tactic that is more of a hard financial skill without first making sure that you're nourishing that relationship with that client or with that business partner or whomever it might be. Can you speak a little bit more to the soft skills that are most important for entrepreneurs who have to have this resiliency and have to have their passions nourished, but also in check? Because when you get a lawsuit, you're going to probably feel an emotional response to that. And if you don't keep that in check, that can become an even worse problem.
Yeah. Communication is big. Yes. I'll tell you that there was a time that I was working for a company that I was running an assembly division, and we had one client that was 60% of our sales. I communicated, "Hey, we talk about risk in this conversation. risk mitigation. And I say, hey guys, we need to look into this. We're heavily working our way with this client. And if we lose this client for whatever reason, we're going to struggle like big time. Communication and emotional intelligence. Like the owner, like, no, I think these guys, they're good. They love us, ta 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 ta. And they didn't want to do anything that could um, uh, make this relationship not work. But at the same time, they were not thinking correctly in terms of, okay, here's the hard facts, and here's what your wishful thinking is saying. No, if I nurture this and I continue working with them, they will be fine. But the hard facts is like, you have a lot of risk with one client. Long story short, lost the customer, and then, they had to lay off like 200 people. That was one of those stories that you're saying, well, you have check and balances. You have to have check and balances. You said they're interrelated. Yes. Sometimes we're not listening enough. We're not going through those processes the right way, and then we end up having the consequences. Well, talking about risk mitigation a little bit, that was seasonal business. They were a ski company, and they were like, no, we rather bring stuff from China because it's cheaper than buy local. And then, well, sorry, from China is taking 6 more months because all ports are closed, and they lost the season. When they got the container, it was already January. Everybody bought their equipment, their gear for Christmas and all of that, and then they were not in there, so they went and they closed. It's good to have advisors. So that's one thing that I would go to, because an external source can help you to see things that you can't. It's like having a business advisor from the SBDC would be great, because he will give you input from things that you probably have not considered. And we're very good at playing with ideas. And like, oh, have you think about this? Oh, what about that? What about this other thing? And that will help you grow. And in risk mitigation will help you because you're now seeing things that you were not seeing before. But we are also bringing our partners to make it stronger for your business, and that can give you an edge, an advantage that someone who hasn't heard from the SBDC is doing. And maybe that's your competitor, and you're going to be like, well, that's good for me. I'm in the right place. And that will give you the advantage against all those other competitors that are not using us.
You're dealing with so many different businesses, so many different kinds of entrepreneurs, so many different varieties of the market. What are some of the most common misconceptions that entrepreneurs come to you with? Like, you see them making these assumptions and you have to say, wait a second, where did that assumption come from? What are some examples of those misconceptions or assumptions that you see more often than not?
Unfortunately, this social media is contributing a lot to that, making it like look easier. And sometimes it's because they watch a couple of videos in YouTube saying this is gonna make you rich. They think that's the way to do it, and that's the easy, fastest way to get to their goal. And sometimes it's like, well, no, they want to sell you a thing. That's what they want to sell you. But normally, I'm not saying it would never happen, but 99% of the time probably won't. So those misconceptions sometimes are there in terms of, I think we're trying to take shortcuts. We don't want to go to the difficult or lengthy process of writing a business plan, doing the market research, doing all the steps necessary to validate your idea, to find the market, do all the right way, and we just want to become an affiliate marketing and make millions of dollars. Um, which is not. I mean, everybody has their own thing. It's just that we need to be aware of the truth and the probabilities as well. Yeah, possibilities. Yeah, you can think of any possibility. Probabilities. Yeah, they're gonna bring you down to earth and say like, yeah, probably 1 of 10 can make it that way. You know, uh, something like that. And that's how we need to teach sometimes our clients. It's like, well, it's just that I heard that I just need to put some money into Facebook ads and that'll be it. Well, yeah, okay, but that's the last part. Like, the advertising. We need to prepare everything before that and figure it out. What's your strategy? What's your campaign? And who are you going to target? And this and that before getting to that part of the process. Um, and we need to educate in that way a little bit more.
So back to throwing spaghetti at the wall, right? It's very easy to throw spaghetti at the wall whenever you're under the illusion that this is going to be easy. And whenever you as a business advisor comes and says, well, wait a second, actually, there's more to it than that. We need to put the brakes on that, throwing the spaghetti at the wall, because that can cost businesses a lot of money. That can cost entrepreneurs a lot of money. Are there other kinds of things like throwing spaghetti at the wall that entrepreneurs are often doing whenever they come to you for advice? And you're like, wait, why are you spending money on Facebook ads, like the example you just gave? Are there other things like that you see more often than not among the clientele that you have?
Sometimes is with clients is that they want a specific type of client that they are missing on the opportunities that other types of clients can bring. A cleaning company that just wanted like big buildings. But they were getting a couple of referrals for small building, offices, and residential. And they were like, nah, okay, it's okay. That's fine. If your target market is big building, it's fine. But why don't you bring those in? If they had the resources, bring those in, work them. You don't know. Maybe the guy who is hiring you knows a guy who has a big building. And if they give a good referral for you, it's like, oh, you get the contract that you want. And so sometimes we're like this, but it gets narrower. That, oh, I don't want to see anything else outside of here. This is my main focus. But in business, you have to be aware of where you are in everything. If something comes your way, like, well, why don't we see it as an opportunity to learn, to maybe explore, and then maybe you say, yeah, I try it. This is not really for me. That's fine. But if and sometimes it's the opposite, right? Sometimes you have to say no to those clients that you are like, yeah, I don't want to work with you. Our values don't align. This guy, blah, blah, blah. No, not getting into that. And that's fine. I know a couple of clients that can give themselves the luxury of doing that. But it's more because of the values, not because of an opportunity that is not within their specifics of what they want. And that's fine. I mean, yeah, when you have a value issue, well, yeah, that's probably not going to work. But yeah, I would think we always need to be aware of our environment and our opportunities and what other revenue streams we can get. It's not just like, it's always going to be this, and suddenly boom, the market opens something different. It's like, oh, now I have this. It's like, was this client that he started trying to sell services to a hospital, and couldn't get those specific services that he wanted. And suddenly COVID came, and he realized these guys have a lot of trash. Now they need trash services. He already knew the people in procurement. So he just went and talked to, hey, what about this? Oh, yes, man, we need you. How many trucks do you have? Well, I just want, okay, you can start tomorrow. And it started like that. And then he bought another, a second truck. And that was great. But because he was open, right? At the same time, like, oh, pivoting is crucial in being an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's, oh, you're like this, hitting the wall. Like, well, let's change the angle a little bit, and maybe you have that opportunity there that you didn't see before. And we need to be flexible in business because we don't know how the environment, the laws, the industry, or all the changes that can affect us. So yeah, that would be another thing to consider.
That's a great thing to keep in mind. The tension between having tunnel vision that can be positive and productive versus tunnel vision that can actually hurt your business. We've talked about the tension between lead generation and making sure that you have a tolerance for risk and a tolerance for making sure that you're serving your clients the best way possible and able to stomach that kind of risk. I wonder if there's one core action, if you could give entrepreneurs one core thing to remember, the number one most important thing, you only had to tell them this one thing, what would that one thing be for a successful life as an entrepreneur?
It would be make sure that you have your why, because the why will provide the resilience to continue and make it happen at the end. If your North Star is really clear, you know why you're doing it, and then you bring all your resources into that. Oh, you go down, but you look at the North Star again, you go up and continue the path of the journey. Otherwise, if it is wishy-washy and is not strong, you're going to leave it at the first time that you're knocked down. And like, oh man, this is hard. Like, I lost $20,000. I better not do this anymore. And it's like, yeah. But if it is there, it will help you. It will help you to go through the bad times, and at the end, probably you will be successful.
Excellent. And that's, of course, keeping eyes on the prize to be a successful entrepreneur. Daniel Olvera, thank you so much for joining us. I understand that you are launching a podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about what we might be able to tune into soon?
Yes, the SBDC, we're working right now on launching a podcast about entrepreneurship. So we're going to be bringing interviews, guests with the specifics, topics that will help you in your journey as an entrepreneur and learning about the legal side of things, the marketing, the also the soft skills as well from time to time, HR, things like that. That will help you to learn more. Sometimes you're driving, you just put the podcast on and you learn about it. So that's another way, another resource that we want to add, not just our webinars, because you have to be on Zoom and stuff like that, or the in person. But now we have another, we're going to have a different way of bringing this information to you and trying to make it relevant. Like we were talking about, also the environment, how is the economy, and bringing people that can give us good perspective on that. And so, yeah, so we're working on it. We're almost there, and stay tuned.
Stay tuned to Daniel Olvera, business advisor for the UTSA Small Business Development Center. Thank you again for joining us. And people can find you online by just Googling the UTSA Small Business Development Center, or do you have a more specific place to send them?
Yeah, it's easier. If they just put SBDC UTSA, it will pop there, and then they can click on the link, and they will see our services and resources there.
Okay. SBDCUTSA. That's the key to all of this free help, free webinars, soon to be a free podcast, and free. We're going to have in-person events soon too. An amazing resource for entrepreneurs. Daniel, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you.
No, thank you, Ryan. Thanks for the invite. It was great to talk to you, and hopefully we can get to more students and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and then we can keep guiding them to be successful.